Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Engineering Money, the podcast where some full-time engineers give their 2 cents of the financial news of the week. My name is Ben, a civil engineer in Washington State.
And I'm Joey, food products engineer in Minneapolis.
And Tim is absent this week, so I looked through my phone to find a weird picture of him as a placeholder, just so that you guys still get to see his beautiful face.
If you're not watching this on YouTube, you should check that out just for the image there.
Do you even know where he is? I forgot to ask you off camera.
No, actually, I did he say? He just said no. He won't. He probably can't record.
Yeah, he just said, "Yeah, no, I can't record this week."
Well, okay then.
We'll figure it out. Well, we got some fun stuff. It was a pretty rocky week this week in the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you take it off, Joey?
Well, I mean, if we just kind of think back last week was kind of our first red week for a while. I don't know how things actually netted out, but I know a lot of my portfolio was red last week, and especially on Friday, it was just kind of, my hypothesis is we got this long weekend. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is not going to be, the markets won't be open. And so this long weekend with this long run up coming up to this week, I think people are like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'd rather not hold on to these things. Kind of a sell off happened there.
Yeah, I'm looking at this graph. So this is the 5-day Dow.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of looks very similar if you were to look at a 1-year graph from August of 2020, going back to August of 2019.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Wait a second.
That's kind of how the crash happened.
Yeah. May or August.
What do you know?
That's wild.
It's the theory behind Elliott waves, which is a age-old technical indicator. It's that the stock market is supposed to be like a fractal. There's patterns that repeat themselves on a small scale and then into a larger scale.
Wow.
So there you go. Prime example. Look at the Dow Jones. But with that in mind, to me, it just screams uncertainty right now. I checked out that good old fear and greed index. We're still kind of in the mild greed situation here, which makes sense because we still have a lot of companies hitting their 52-week highs. Things are getting run up, but it's not as clearly a crazy bull market as it has been. And so I'm falling back on some of my that I can feel really good about for a longer term, and even if we really start to feel the market effects of a recession, I look at the type of stocks that normally do well in a recession, and those historically are consumer staples, healthcare, and I guess utilities. I don't know much about utility stocks, but I know about healthcare and consumer staples mostly because I've studied or worked in both of those for the past 6 years of my life. But to me, consumer staples makes a ton of sense. People always need to eat food, but it's also kind of boring to invest in. I don't know. They're not gonna go up like a Facebook stock or something. Whereas healthcare gets a little more exciting because you get some of this cutting edge technology out there, and people still need healthcare even in a recession. So it feels a little safer.
Yeah.
It's also the right now second largest market cap in the overall market right now. Information technology is the only sector that's bigger than healthcare. But anyway, that's why I want to talk about healthcare stocks this week. They've been what I'm looking at,
I love
and I like to go for the slightly larger cap stocks when I'm looking for safety. So the two I want to bring up this week are Eli Lilly, that's LLY.
Nice. Yeah.
Eli Lilly's great because they're also the largest corporate partnership with Purdue University that's ever happened.
And I'm wearing a Purdue shirt today.
I'm wearing a Purdue sweatshirt.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, they've recently been really They had a good week last week for
That
sure.
they've had a good quarter since the end of
Yeah,
November. They've just popped.
yeah. I don't know what it's been for the past few months, but just this past week, good news came out about their Alzheimer's drug, which is
Oh,
pretty big because there's not a good treatment for Alzheimer's right
sure.
now, and so it's big news that they're doing this. But I started taking a closer look at them, and they have things like their dividend growth keeps on growing. It's they grew by what 32% this year, 15% last year, 9% the year before that. Looks like 3% the year before that.
Dang.
They just steadily, when they're making more money, they're giving out more money to their shareholders, and so they're one that just looks super stable and on a growth spurt right now. So I've been
Yeah.
holding for a while, so that I'm happy that now I'm making a little more money, but I might put more in
in
uh, with the news
with
that's
the
coming out
news
this
that's coming
week.
out this week. Sure.
But the other one that I wanted to bring up, and this one I actually found, like Eli Lilly I knew about before because, Purdue, but Quest Diagnostics is the next one. It's DGX is their ticker. This one I totally found
Say that
through
again.
stock.
Not
It's DGX, Quest
DGX.
Diagnostics. Yeah, yeah.
Wait.
So
What?
I
E?
D as
D.
in dog.
Sorry. I was being a little slow there.
So that they've been doing not as I don't know, not as fancy as Eli Lilly with the big game
Yeah, but
last
what do
week,
they do?
but they've been doing modest growth. So they make I mean diagnostics. I thought of them because the last COVID test, the only COVID test that I've ever taken was a Quest Diagnostics test. And
Mm.
they did it really well. It was totally through the mail. Um, I think like the state of Minnesota has been funding tests for anyone here. You can just request them, and they're through Quest Diagnostics, where they just sent you all the supplies in the mail. You had a little Zoom chat with someone who gave you the instructions and make sure you actually spit in the vial, which sounds like a terrible job. Watching people spit in vials all day long.
It ain't
but
much, but
but
it's a
anyway,
living.
Quest Diagnostics is one that, I mean, they just shook off the coronavirus crash. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
their stock price, there was a crazy dip, but absolutely spiked back up like it didn't even matter. They've been growing. What do we have now? 16% in the past 52 weeks. They do have a dividend. It's nothing huge, 1.8%, but just their valuation is what looks really good for me. They are just like the 95th percentile for valuation in the healthcare sector because their price to earnings is only 15 right now.
Wow.
So that's one that looks like a good time to get in, and they definitely have steady growth. So those are two that I've been looking at. Just as things feel a little uncertain for me. I don't know what's going to happen when markets open Tuesday, but I'll probably I'll definitely be buying Eli Lilly because I already have them. So I don't know. It feels easier to buy more of a stock you already own, but
Sure.
I'll be
So,
watching Quest Diagnostics for sure.
do you know what other kinds of tests they do?
Let me. They do a whole lot of stuff.
Because my thought on Quest would be, as the vaccine becomes more and more distributed and more people get it, and less people are getting tested for COVID, they'll have to kind of reshuffle where their priorities are at as a company, because that revenue stream that they're seeing right now,
That's true.
will
Through
it be
that
around
alone.
next year? Will people still? Well, certainly not to the same extent, but COVID testing is I'm bearish on testing.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, they're so that's definitely a good point that they'll lose that. I don't know, they're big enough and they do a whole lot of other testing. I mean, the description is diagnostic information services such as routine testing, non-routine and advanced clinical testing, anatomic pathology testing. They're really just kind of like a third party that the other healthcare organizations can send their clinical samples or whatever they have to Quest Diagnostics, and a Quest
Gotcha.
lab will give you results back.
Yeah, because
And
I don't know how it went, and you might know, but my thinking is, they tanked with everybody else. It lagged a few weeks, but then their leadership, after a few weeks after they saw COVID's getting bad, they probably came out and were like, "Hey, we're gonna start making COVID tests," and then it shot right back up.
right, yeah, yeah, it's definitely one that I'll be keeping my eye on. But like I said, I'm not as strong on it as Lilly. But Lilly, they're a good company.
Yeah, our other friend, Miles, really likes Eli Lilly.
They're pretty neat. Pharmaceuticals. But those are the two things I was looking at this week.
That's pretty cool. Before I do my thing, we forgot we're sponsored by Vinovest. Another perfect
Oh my gosh,
transition.
this is normally Tim's job.
I know. Just pretend that Tim's picture is moving. But yeah, it's
And saying this.
You sign up with our referral link down in the description. It's a way to get into wine investing, which is a pretty cool industry. They have these sommeliers that will help you make your selection on what you want to invest in, and you can also just buy your investment too and drink it, which is pretty cool. So yeah,
I mean, can you say that about any other investment portfolio?
I doubt it, and I believe you get a discount on the expense fee for opening an account with that link. So do it.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So my thing this week is a continuation on our discussion last time where I was talking about policy plays. But I want to dive a little further into the infrastructure policy play. So Biden has on his websites and stuff how he has these huge plans for infrastructure spending over the next 4 years, but especially in these 2 years where it's going to be easier to churn out the policy and the funding for all sorts of stuff. And with infrastructure, you got a lot of copper. And the infrastructure industry as a whole is projected to have the largest increase in demand for copper over the next 100 years, I believe the projection was.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and copper already is kind of at a sort of critical point now where the demand for it is starting to exceed the supply.
Okay.
So the fundamentals look really, really nice to get into copper. And one way to do it is with miners. There's a copper miner on my list of 10 stocks for 2021. But I wanted to talk about a different one today. And this isn't a miner. It's a royalty company.
You've talked about those before.
So this is Nova Royalty. And their whole corporate vision is they want to tap into that growth with clean energy, EV, all those sorts of things. And it's going to be copper and nickel. The demand is just going to skyrocket as we get more and more clean energies, or I guess energy options, and as they install them around the country, and then just infrastructure in general too. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Right now they have 17 mines that they're collecting royalties on. And they got a few in the works in terms of mines that are in their exploratory phase. But it's pretty straightforward. They give a miner a lump sum of money, and then they collect between like 0.5% and 4% on all of the revenue that the mine generates. And they talk a lot about how they see all these sorts of clean energy stuff becoming more and more popular and more viable, and how they want to tap into
they want to be ready.
Yeah, they want to be ready. And so they recently IPO'd. Let me pull up their ticker. Nover. So yeah, it's only been a few months.
I like the ticker.
October of 2020 is when they started.
Oh, very recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've only gone up, but I think they're just starting.
Wow, and they IPO'd at a very low price.
Yep. So it's got a similar leadership team. There's actually E.B. Tucker, who I really like, and my dad is the one who got me into these royalty companies. But he's also, E.B. Tucker is also on the leadership team of Metallo Royalties, which we've talked about before on the podcast, but it's a very similar business model. Metallo focuses on gold, though. But
okay.
yeah, they started out very similarly, less than $2, but very rapidly shot up since the IPO.
Right.
And I see this company taking a very similar route, even though the types of minerals are less valuable, I guess, compared to the price of the dollar. But over time, copper and nickel are going to become very valuable.
Right, and it makes sense. If they're not valuable now, now's the time to buy, and that's essentially what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, hey, those metals under the ground are going to be valuable soon.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be cool if we already owned them?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, so they're essentially getting a discount on the future price of copper and nickel, which is dope.
Oh, Ben, that reminds me. I was looking at futures for materials and metals. And I wanted to ask you about platinum, because platinum looks like the one that, first off, interesting that metals like gold, silver, copper, platinum all dropped in March with everything else.
Yeah.
It's like normally you'd think those would be the safe bet. You go out of stocks and buy your gold, but people didn't. They sold everything.
Well, in March it was
platinum's
like,
the one that,
is this the end of humanity? You know?
Right. That's a good point. But platinum's the one that didn't bounce back. I think it's like just recently hit its price before the crash.
Mm.
And I don't know if you know anything about that or have insights on it, but I figured I'd ask because I don't know anything about them.
The only thing I can really think of, so like silver, gold, copper, nickel, palladium, even, they have pretty extensive utility to them. Where for most of history they were just fake value that were, it was
true. It's just like shiny object.
Because, you know, it was kind of rare, small enough to carry around, easily measurable, you know, good currency. But you know, since the new wave of technology and stuff, gold is in a lot of different things, silver as well, palladium, copper and nickel. And I know platinum also has utility, but I'm wondering if maybe it doesn't have as many like things it could be put in.
Right. Things like it's not actually the best at what it does, and it's more expensive too, so it just doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, because like every cell phone has, I can't remember the exact value, but it's some small fraction of a percentage of gold.
Right. Gold is like the best conductor that doesn't tarnish.
Yep. And copper and nickel have all sorts of EV applications. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah. Interesting. It's interesting because I just remember a while ago we talked about like the gap between gold and silver, and
Oh,
right, and it's like so to me I'm thinking, okay, well right now there's a gap between platinum and everything else.
yeah. I'm not sure. I should. I'm gonna do some research because I really have no idea.
It's just something I noticed earlier today. I was just looking at a bunch of different futures. The one future actually, while I'm on the topic of futures, have you seen soybean prices? It's insane.
Yes.
It is just absolutely exponential growth.
We are having some really bad weather, and it is totally disrupting the soybean market in America. I was reading an article about this morning, so I don't remember exactly all of the details, but there was something about the weather that we've had recently that they are now predicting it's going to be a bad year for soybean production.
Okay.
And we're going to see a lot more
supply will be low.
imported soybeans from China and all sorts of other things. So that makes sense that the prices are getting high.
Yeah. Agriculture investing is so cool to me because it depends on the weather, and so you can like invest on a weather pattern.
Yeah.
And be like, there's a cloud off the Pacific over there. Time to buy.
Yeah. No, weather people would be great agricultural commodity traders.
Yeah.
Even though, they're still not perfect predictions because it's level 1 chaotic system, but
Exactly.
Still pretty
But
cool.
does it count as insider trading if you trade on the information before you publish it?
I don't know. I don't know if they can make that correlation.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we just tapped into something serious. Okay, this is a verbal trademark. Weatherman Commodity Traders as a company.
Yeah, there we go. Got it.
Alrighty. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap up?
No, I didn't have anything else. Shorter episode here. Tim chiming in.
Dang. Oh well. Alrighty. Well, sleep good, everybody, and we will see ya or hear you next week.